Hello again. So today we are going to be learning how to draft the basic skirt pattern. And trust me, it is very simple. So these are the measurements we are going to be using. We have a skirt waist of 32 inches, hips of 40 inches, the hip depth is also known as the waist to hip of 9 inches, and the skirt length of 25 inches. You can use any skirt length of your choice. So the first thing we are going to be doing is, so as you can see, I ruled the line at the top, which is the skirt waist, and also by the side by the left. Okay, just rule a horizontal line down. And the next thing I did was to rule, a vertical line down. And the next thing I did was to rule an horizontal line of 9 inches, which is the same thing as the hip depth we have here of 9 inches. Okay, so rule a 9 inches hip depth. And the next thing we are going to do, we are going to be making use of our calculator. Okay, you can use a calculator like this, or you can also use the one you have on your phone. Okay, so we have a hip depth of 40 inches. Remember, you have to take your own measurements. Okay, I'll leave a link on how to take body measurements in the description box. I have a video on that. So the hip of 40 inches, so we are going to 40 divided by 4. Okay, so we have 10 inches. We are going to be adding 0.25 inches to it plus 0.25. That 0.25 is the ease. Okay, we don't want it too fitted. We need a little room to breathe. So that 0.25 is the ease. So we're going to measure. So we have 10.25 to measure. So we're just simply going to measure 10.25. 10.25. We measure it all the way down. 10.25. 10.25 all the way down to the length of the skirt. So we'll use our straight ruler to rule it down. To rule it down to the length of the skirt. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to measure 2 inches after the 10.25. Remember how we got the 10.25 was that this skirt hip of 40 inches, we divided it by 4. So 40 divided by 4 will give us 10. We now added 0.25 to it to give you 10.25. So that's the 10.25 we have here. So the next thing we are going to be doing is to add 2 inches to it. That 2 inches is for ease. Sorry, the 2 inches is for seam allowance, not ease. Sorry, the 2 inches is for seam allowance. So we are going to rule it down. We are going to find out why as we progress in the skirt. So seam allowance is where we'll sew. We can't sew with our measurements. We can't sew on our measurements rather. So the 2 inches is for seam allowance. So the next thing we're going to do now, we have 10.25 here. This is for the back. We are going to come here and measure 10.25 again after the 2 inches of seam allowance. Remember the 10.25. Remember how we got it. So that 10.25 is for the front. We divided the hip by 4 and add that 0.25 for ease. So we are going to, I measured it in several places just to get a straight line. You can see it is very simple to draft. In 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes, you're done. So the next thing we are going to do now, remember this is the hip depth. Let me hip depth. Okay. And this top here is the waist. So this is the hip depth and this is the back. Okay. While this is the front. So the next thing we are going to do now, from our measurements, we have the waist of 32 inches. So we are going to take our calculator again and do 32 divided by 4. We have 8 inches, 32 divided by 4. So we're going to add 1 inch to it. So that 1 inch is for that. The use of that is to give shape to a skirt or any garment you're sewing. So we are going to measure that. That means we have 9. Let me measure the 9 here. 9. Okay. For the front, for the back, and also the front. Remember, this is the beginning. We're going to measure 9 as well for the front. So the next thing we're going to do is to find out where we're going to place our darts. So if you remember, we did 32, which is the waist circumference divided by 4 to give you 8. So from that 8, we're going to divide it by 2 again. We're going to divide it by 2 again. So if you divide 8 by 2, definitely the answer is 4. We're going to measure it down a little again. 4. We're going to do the same thing at the back. 4. And come down a little to measure 4. The reason why we are coming down because we are measuring the dart length is 5 inches. The dart length is 5 inches. I'm going for the back. I'm coming to the front again to do a dart length of 5 inches. So we are going to take our straight ruler and measure. Okay, I'm doing for the back and I'm also doing for the front. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to remember the dart is half an inch. So we are going to just come and measure half an inch on both sides. Let me do for the back and also the front. Half an inch on both sides and just rule the dark leg down to the 5-inch mark. You can see we are almost done with the skirt. You can see how easy it is to draft a basic skirt pattern. Very easy. Okay. So the next thing we are going to do, we're going to have, this is called a varying hip cuff. Varying hip cuff. We just connect it down to the hip depth. Remember, this hip depth is 9 inches, which is the distance between your waist and your hip. Okay, we have 9 inches. It varies for people. You can have 6 inches, 7 inches, depending on the shape of the person. We just measure down to the hip depth. Okay, and that's for the back. And we measure again for the front as well of 9 inches. Okay, so you can see this mark is going off. This is going off. Remember, this was the initial line. So we did this this mark at the waist down to the hip depth. So this line as well, so that will not be confused, is going off. It's not part. So the shape of the skirt is from here down and from here as well down. So the next thing we are going to do, you can see why we left 2 inch for seam allowance now. So I'm going to measure 1 inch down, 1 inch down. So it makes it easier we're going to just measure 1 inch down for the back, and we're going to do the same thing for the front. 1 inch. You can see why I cancel this formal line so that we will not be confused. 1 inch down. So let me just do the one down here first. We're going to measure it from here down to the hip depth. Okay, and we're going to use this bearing curve. Let's just follow the mark. Follow the mark from here down here, and the other part. Remember, this is the back and this is the front. We'll just follow the same shape down here. So we can just shade it that part to know that we are not going to include this in our document. So we are basically done. The next thing we are going to do is to cut it off. So before cutting it off, let me just measure it. Let me just label it. So this is called the side back, SB, and this is the side front, SF. So the next thing we're going to do also is to add what is called a grain line, so as to show which direction it's going to be sewn. So this is going to be sewn on the straight grain. Okay, this arrow indicates that it's going to be sewn on the straight grain, and we're going to add a grain line as well to the back. This is going to be sewn on the straight grain as well. Okay, so that's all. Let me just cut it off. Let me show you. And sorry, one more thing. We are going to add the zipper allowance at the back. This is 1 inch because we already added at the side back and at the side front. So the next one will be at the back, side back, and side front. So it's 1 inch as well. We just measure it down. Just connect this down here, and at the top as well. Just connect it down here. So to make the skirt balance properly in front, because we have the stomach in front, so we'll come down by 0.75 in front, not at the back, only in front, because this is the front. Okay, and we'll use the curve pass, the curving ruler, the very curve. We'll connect it not to this seam allowance now. We'll connect it down here. Please see the way I'm placing my ruler. Okay, this is going to make the front balance very well. So this part is going off, remember. Let's not be confused. And so let me just label this part is going to be cut on fold. On fold means on the fold, we'll fold the fabric before cutting it. That is the meaning of the shape that I'm drawing here. It means on fold, on the folded part. Okay. So let me just write it. This is a zipper allowance. Okay. So the final thing we are going to be doing is to cut it off. We just cut it off. So I'm cutting the back first. So this is the back, and this right here is the front. Let me just cut out the part that is not needed. Okay. Remember this part that we curved a little, that we did with 0.75. We are going to be cutting it off down here. Then the seam allowance. Okay, that's all. That's all for today. So see you in the next class.